Friday, July 25th.
Unity, high concept.
In the United States, President Roosevelt and Undersecretary of State Sumner Welles announced measures in retaliation to the agreements made between France and Japan relating to Indochina. The financial assets of Japanese businesses and individuals in the United States are frozen, and commerce between the two countries is suspended, including oil supplies. For their part, the British government renounces its commercial agreements with Japan and freezes its assets in the British Empire. Third Reich and Romanian troops occupy the region of Bessarabia. In the Far East, at an official function in Tokyo, attended by the new Foreign Minister Teijiro Toyoda and foreign diplomats, including U.S. Ambassador Joseph Grew, it is announced that the new Japanese government will continue the foreign policy of its predecessors. The Thai government declares that the country will remain neutral during the war. Chinese troops loyal to Chiang Kai-shek head towards the border with Indochina. Saturday, July 26th. In the Soviet-German War, Army Group Center launches the final assault on Smolensk. Some of the Russian soldiers in the city try to retreat eastwards through a small gap through Yartsevo and Solov-Evo. In Lvov, in the wake of the Army Group South, the Ukrainians begin a program against Jews that will last for 3 days. More than 2,000 are killed. In the heavy fighting between the troops of von Rundstedt and those of Marshal Semyon Budyonny between rivers Dniester and Bug on the southwestern front, the Russians lose thousands of men and more than 1,000 tanks. A Soviet military mission travels to the United States to meet with Undersecretary of State Sumner Welles and General George Marshall, Chief of Staff of the Army. President Roosevelt creates a new command for American forces in the Far East, USAFFE, based in Manila in the Philippines and headed by General Douglas MacArthur. 100,000 Philippines are drafted. He also orders the closure of the Panama Canal to Japanese shipping. In the Far East, the Japanese government freezes all the assets of British and American companies and citizens. In Indochina, having occupied capital Saigon, the Japanese demand the French cede 8 air bases, 2 naval bases, and grant freedom for their forces to move across the whole country. Sunday, July 27th. On the Russian front, Hitler informs Marshal von Bock, the commander of the Army Group Center, of the decision to replace Marshal Gunther von Kluge as chief of the Fourth Army. Generals Heinz Guderian and Hermann Hoth, in charge of the Panzergruppe 2 and 3, with whom Kluge has very tense relations, support the decision. German troops cut all Smolensk communications with Yasma and Moscow. The panzers are now less than 200 kilometers away from Stalin. Luftwaffe bombers attacked the Russian capital for the 5th consecutive night. one of the bombs hits the Kremlin, and in Berlin, Goebbels enthusiastically declares on the radio that the Kremlin is now a pile of burning rubble. In reality, however, it's very different. In Ukraine, the troops of the Southwest Front under Marshal Budyonny withdraw in the face of the advance of Army Group South. The American government grants the Philippines $10 million to spend on defense. Undersecretary of State Sumner Welles declares that the United States and Great Britain are working together to solve the problems in the Far East. Monday, July 28th. In northern Russia, the pressure of Army Group North forces the Soviets to abandon the city of Kingisepp, named after the Latvian communist leader. The Germans are now 130 kilometers to the west of Leningrad. In the south, Romanian and German troops occupy the port of Ackerman, Bilhorod-Dniprovsky, and are less than 50 kilometers away from Odessa, which is being bombed by Luftwaffe aircraft. Due to the enormous strains of the German war economy, Heinrich Himmler orders the special SS groups involved in ethnic cleansing operations to send prisoners from the Eastern Front who are able to work as slave labor. At Hitler's Rostenburg headquarters, a small group of high-ranking officers express their disquiet at the war crimes and atrocities being carried out in the occupied territories. The American and British governments discussed the possibility of blockading Japan to put an end to its expansionist policy. China and Russia sign an agreement in which Chiang Kai-shek promises to supply troops to the Russian army. Tuesday, July 29th. General Franz Halder, Chief of Staff of the OKH, the Supreme Command of the Army, hands Hitler a report on the capacity of the Red Army. According to Halder, of the 180 divisions it had at the start of the war, more than half have been destroyed. He proposes that the short-term goal should be to eliminate the Russian forces west of River Dnieper, located north of Gomel and south of Leningrad. The Soviets create a new line of defense between Rizhev and Vyazma to protect Moscow. The Soviet capital endures its 7th German bombing raid. In London, Churchill warns Parliament that they have to be ready for a possible German invasion. Responding to doubts about arms production, the Prime Minister assures the House that the number of planes produced this year is double last year's output.
Let us not be told that we are producing half as much again, or double what we produced this time last year.
The government of the Dutch East Indies supports the policy of the Americans and the British. They freeze all Japanese assets and break off commercial relations. Japan is faced with the danger of running out of key resources in the middle of the war with China and is forced to look elsewhere for raw materials. The Japanese occupy the Cam Ranh naval base in the China Sea, east of the Philippines. Wednesday, July 30th. From his headquarters, Hitler issues Directive 34. In the light of the report from the OKH, he orders the reorganization of Army Group Center. In the north, the German troops are to continue their march towards Leningrad, while those in the south are to clear out enemy forces from the west of the River Dnieper and in the surroundings of Kiev as soon as possible. The attack against Moscow is delayed for the present. Up to now, the Germans have destroyed more than 12,000 Russian tanks. Harry Hopkins, Roosevelt's special emissary, undertakes one of the most important diplomatic missions of the war, visiting Moscow. He informs Stalin that 200 fighter planes are being shipped to the Soviet port of Archangelsk. He promises the communist dictator that the Americans will help him in his war against the Axis powers and lays the foundations for a direct relationship with President Roosevelt. Give us what we need and we will fight for 3 or 4 years, Stalin says, sending a message to Roosevelt in which he calls on the United States to enter the war, because without the Americans, it will be very difficult to defeat the Nazi war machine. In London, the Polish government in exile re-establishes diplomatic relations with Russia, which were broken off following the invasion and the massacre of Katyn. General Władysław Sikorski announces that a Polish army will be created to fight alongside the Soviets. Thursday, July 31st. In Russia, Marshal von Lieb's Army Group North takes Tallinn, the capital of Estonia, and reaches Lake Ilmen. The road to Leningrad looks clear. Meanwhile, Finnish troops attack the Soviets south of Lake Ladoga. Army Group Center and the special forces of the SS begin operations of ethnic cleansing in Smolensk. With Hitler's approval, Göring sends a note to Reinhard Heydrich, chief of the security of the Third Reich, ordering him to speed up the drafting of the plan for the so-called final solution to the Jewish question, the extermination of Jews in occupied Europe. In the city of Chisinau, in Bessarabia, more than 10,000 Jews have been murdered in a 14-day massacre. In Moscow, during his second meeting with Harry Hopkins in the Kremlin, Stalin comments that Hitler's main weakness resides in the enormous number of oppressed people that hate him. These people can only gain the encouragement and the moral strength to destroy him from one source, the US, he says. In England, the RAF carries out the first flight of the light bomber Lockheed PV-1 B-34 Ventura. In North Africa, General Ludwig Cruel takes charge of the Africa Corps, while Rommel commands the Panzergruppe Africa, comprised of 1 infantry and 2 panzer units.